We begin in Mike Standee's dressing room. We see that the place is dark. The only lights coming from the light bulbs that are attached to his mirror dresser, where he's looking at himself. And we see the mirror dresser begin to move slightly around him as he recites, "Mirror, mirror on the moon, show me who will interview. Make them tall, lonely, and magically tied. One who holds far too much pride." And while we cannot see what the mirror shows, we do see Mike Standee smile before he picks out a brand new outfit and gets ready for the show. I'm going to post the outfit for season 2, drawn by the wonderful world. And with that, we see Mike Standee enter from stage left as the theme song and its logo, as the theme song of the Latenight Speechbubble and its logo appear on screen. We see Mike Standee walk across the stage, saying hi to folks, and such. Checking his schedule from somebody who hands him over a clipboard, and pointing at something on. He grabs a cup of coffee from a passing by set of gloved hands, before making his way over to his desk and sitting down on it. Welcome back, everybody, to the Late Night Speech Bubble. I am your host with the most, at your behest, Mike Standee. Tonight's program will be quite enticing as we have quite the person joining us. We'll be interviewing a certain headmaster from Night Raven Academy, known as the previous courtier of the Thorn Queen Malinor, Archfey ruler of the Briar Valley, most powerful of the Great Seven. Hey everybody, welcome to Headmaster Grim Crowley. And Whirl. As the theme song continues, wherever Grim Crowley is right now, they're no longer...
Jade, you died. Technical difficulties.
Hi, sorry about that. Stop the music. Yeah, my microphone disconnected for a hot second. Sorry about that.
No, I can spin this.
Yeah.
There is a bit of, shall we say, technical interference, a swirl of static that turns into a puff of smoke, and there is a very flamboyantly dressed man joining you on the stage.
Don't even walk from stage left, just appears. I like that.
He takes a gander at the surroundings and is just, my goodness, well, this is a setup. I was not expecting an interview today, but this was not on my schedule. Can I help you?
Good evening, Mr. Headmaster Grim Crowley, I believe. Does Headmaster Crowley work just fine, or would you prefer it?
Oh, just Crowley, dear.
Crowley it is. Mike Standee at your service. He does extend out a hand to shake.
Crowley will shake his hand.
Thank you for joining me, sir. You are here tonight at the Late Night Speech Bubble.
My goodness, I've never heard of such a broadcast. Is this one of those new ones on those streaming services the kids are so excited about?
You would not have heard it, my good friend, since this channel does not appear in your dimension.
My goodness.
Took us quite a bit of struggle to actually get you here, let me tell you.
Well, I am honored by your efforts.
Quite. Now, Crowley, obviously, you are a highly esteemed individual. I don't know if you heard my you probably did not hear my uh, the amount of titles that you hold, but it is quite amazing for a person of your stature. Um,
Ah, well, I do try to be humble. Truly, I am the picture of humility, but it is true I have accomplished much in my time.
Especially for somebody who started down in the lowest of lows. Not even a. What does Crowley look like now? Are they an elf in their current form?
Eladrin, but yes.
Eladrin. Not even an Eladrin like yourself, but starting out at a and starting out much smaller. And TV comes down, pulling up a picture of an egg.
And Crowley just chuckles and says, "Ah, yes, those were the days, running wild in the woods. Truly, not all great success stories can come from grand and lofty origins. Some of us, we start small and grow into brilliant stars rather than being born as such."
No, I truly agree with you. I truly agree with that sentiment. I mean, it's not every day that you are hatched as a bird, hatched as a crow, and then we see a picture go from an egg to like the hatching to just like a tiny little crow flying around the forest. Um, I can relate to such a person as myself, reaching such high stature.
Crowley just smiles.
Now, I must ask, because it was curious for me. Are all birds from your universe this sentient, or are you just happen to be a special case?
Well, that was a different time, you must understand. The rules of stories, they shift and change as the needs may be, but back in the day, many of us were, yes, quite clever for our kind. But even among them, I was truly exemplary. An outlier, if you will. It takes a certain level of keen and innate magical potential to achieve all of this.
Even in your earlier years, it must have been a hard transition. I mean, not every day that as a bird grows into a ladron. A ladron.
Ah, true. Let me tell you, learning that this form can't fly, a true tragedy, but the prices we pay to be able to interact with polite society.
Really, you can't cast a fly spell.
Of course I can, but it's not the same, you know?
To be free as a bird. No, I completely understand it. And you see the Mike Standee takes off his head and cracks it on the table, and out comes a tiny little bird version of himself. And he just
Curly
walks. He just like the body just limps and falls over behind the desk as he continues to walk across the desk. You're saying like, and I'll just put this because it is a cute bird.
Now that is a trick.
I'm filled with many. But to be fair, and he begins flying just around. There is nothing like flying free as a bird now, isn't it? Oh, to cage yourself. As he places himself into like a tiny little cage that pops up from the desk, and he comes back down, and you see Mike Standee walks again from from the stage right, and sits behind the desk.
There's just this bemused smile on Curly's face, like, yep, this is some Fae bullshit. Okay. Business as usual.
Uh huh. Now, how did you achieve this transformation? I'm sure those. I'm sure it's such a simple thing. So it was such a simple thing now for you to be able to change forms, isn't it?
But of course. And he will stand up and he takes the cloak that he has, wraps it around himself, and for a moment, whoosh, transforms back into a black feathered crow. and then there's a swish, and back to normal.
Ah, such easy trickery.
It's all a matter of the right runes in the right places, of course. It took a bit of time to learn, and my goodness, it is not easy weaving fabric with talons, but one must make do.
Especially achieving such a trick on your own, which does make me wonder. And you see a pair of gloved hands come in walk up next to Standee and hold another cup of coffee because he had finished the other one. And he brings it forward. Even I don't work by myself. What draws you to leave behind the others?
Well, in life, we must learn to rely on ourselves before anyone else. After all, we are the only ones we can rely on to always have our own best interests at heart. To be able to stand alone is to be strong, and to be strong is to be capable of doing what you please.
Now, this is something we will have to disagree on. Even I wouldn't be able to put up any of this without my sponsors.
Well, then perhaps we are simply two different breeds of men, my dear man.
Well, it just happens I'm not a man. I am a toon, but I understand the sentiment. I don't believe you're familiar with that term, actually. It just occurred to me.
Afraid not. Tell me, is that the native species of this place where you have brought me?
One of the
I see quite a few similar faces in the audience.
one of the many raises. I mean, it's not like there are many different faces to a person. As you see, Mike Standee stands up and changes between multiple different art styles, from 3D to claymation to like a rough sketched outline to back to UPA
Mm-hmm.
Tunes come in all shapes and sizes, but we have our fair share of. And he turns into a human, to an elf, to a gnome, to an orc, to back to UPA and Tune, which is just who. Imagining all the different versions of Mike Standee is killing me. Uh,
We're gonna need someone to draw these at some point.
I know Liz has drawn a human version of Mike. Hold on, I gotta grab it because it's really fucking good.
We love Liz art.
Liz art good. What's it? Ah, here we go. I found it. Hold on a moment. This is what Mike Standee looked like for a hot second.
Show us. Let's see it.
It's so cursed. I need you to understand how cursed this is. Spoiling it for possible Scopo.
Terrifying, thank you.
Yeah.
I hate his face.
But you find yourself in, well, let's put it in my own little corner of Einquell.
I am so sorry, Jade. You cut out through like every word of that. What was that?
Motherfucker. You find yourself in my own little corner of Einquell.
Einquell. What a fascinating name.
Quite. Now, obviously, I'm not here to answer the questions. I'm here to ask them. So, it's about time we deal with possibly one of your biggest attempts at something. I believe you are familiar with the Shadow Confrontation?
Ah, yes. That old piece of work. It hasn't gone by that name in many generations. Truly, I must find out where you get your information.
Oh, we have our investigators. Um, but you really did try to go about changing your very nature of your own reality.
But of course.
I'm I'm sure there are plenty of people in Zatori, uh, the planet that we are on, that would love nothing more than to learn a couple of things from you.
Well, I don't like to brag, but my intellect had proven more than capable of finding ways around other supposedly necessarily collaborative magics. So I supposed that something that on the surface only made for the betterment of oneself through magic. Why, must be simple as that, isn't it? Unfortunately, the texts I had were, hmm, well, that's what happens when you live in a world of stories, I suppose. Myth and fact get quite mixed up.
It's such a pity that you weren't able to turn the shadow confrontation into what you wanted. I mean, uh, I did it on my own quite a while ago, and I even wrote my own book about it. And you see, he pulls out a book under the desk that just says "Beating Your Own Shadow on Your Own Through Fist Fighting." Sadly, the erasures of the Tory have destroyed most of the copies, so he throws it out behind him, throw out the window.
Crowley just gives a raised eyebrow, like, okay.
Instead, I believe something else came of it, didn't it? You have a name for it?
Ah, yes. The unfortunate side effect, that is, overblot. Truly, no career is complete without a few black marks, but it has well been taken care of, so I'm not too fussed anymore.
Of course, I mean you can't make an omelet without without cracking a few eggs. Now, can't I? How many eggs did you crack? Was
Precisely.
it? And he pulls out a massive amount of papers, I believe, and he flips through them really quickly. 4,122 casualties of cracked eggs.
Yes. But that is unfortunately the price of achieving greatness. I'm sure that in the end they understood that they were a part of something better. The betterment of one's own world must be taken above such simple things as individual lives, really.
Uh, Through this, by the way, you see on the screen behind him uh, the effects of the Overlord incident on multiple different people. Um,
Hmm. Over and over again, the same horrific and uncontrollable transformation, usually going entirely without aid.
Quite. I am sure that all these sacrifices you made are definitely worth it. Especially since now you've basically dangled the Overblot into our world, and now we have to deal with it.
So this is where my dear student ended up. Well, I assure you it will all be over soon.
Quite. We can talk about audience later. I still have a couple of questions about for you, specifically about your life. Now, obviously, you're one of the great seven, so I must implore, what are the other six like?
Oh, my dear Mr. Standee, you flatter me, but you are mistaken. It is my queen who is of the Great Seven. I personally am only a humble archmage and have never had the great honor of standing in the halls of such greatness. But what I can say of my dear Queen Melianor, well, what is there to say that has not been said? Her nobility, her beauty, her radiance, Her immense skill with magic, her immeasurable wisdom, her infinite depths of mercy and intellect. Truly, there is no better woman in the world, no more gracious ruler, no kinder queen.
Well, for somebody who led you basically off with a very small warning after your creation of the Overblot, I would call her what she did a kindness.
Is it not? She allowed me the chance to fix my, shall we say, small blunder. And in the end, we achieved something greater. She has always understood me, you know?
Now, I'm asking you, Whirl. This is not true, correct? Like the Queen Melanor uh, does not actually think of this of Crowley, does she?
No. No, she doesn't.
Good, good. So I have a question that I'm going to ask you. Would you allow me to show Queen Melanor and what she really thinks of Crowley?
Um, I'm going to have to say no on that just because I don't know how to play her yet.
Okay.
I've never planned on actually having to play her, so I don't have a set voice for her or a set personality.
Okay.
So we're gonna have to skip on the cameo from the Thorn Queen herself.
Of course, of course. No worries. This is why I asked.
Thank you very much for asking.
Oh. Right. Now, I believe you are currently still the headmaster of Night Raven College.
But of course, I built that school from the ground up. I do believe it will be the place where I rest when I die.
Right. And you've been there, yeah, through the early days of it. Teaching, at the very start, teaching almost every single class, if I'm correct.
Ah, yes, it was truly a taxing workload. But that is what it takes to shape generations of young minds. Eventually, I did find those that I could trust with my in depth educational regiment, but until those select few were ready, I had to handle the classes myself. And of course, I do still teach from time to time. Once a teacher, always a teacher.
Of course, of course. It's quite interesting. I mean, for somebody who is a teacher, probably uh, loves to teach, it's interesting that you chose to erase the idea of the. Or I wouldn't say you chose, but the just the fact that the shadow confrontation is not really much thought nowadays, is it?
Well, it is the unfortunate fact that things cannot stay the same forever. Everything must change in its time. It is not so much that the ritual was erased as it was transformed, and awareness of what it once was became far less important than awareness of the risks that it currently posed. We do want our students to be educated, informed, and capable of maintaining their own safety.
Quite. I do have respect for a person that, in not being able to rise to the challenge and become the most powerful person in the universe, instead chose to bring the rest of the world down to their level. I must respect that about you.
My good man, that sounds like a bit of an accusation now, isn't it? What have I done to earn such ire?
Oh, I don't know. Perhaps strung along a young individual, bring them out of the universe and forcing them to hold and contain a ink-born parasite, only to then send them away into a different universe. And we see the fact that this is what happens. On the screen,
Yep.
you see the live of you audience.
Like live feed?
Yeah, not currently like what is currently happening, but more of a the past in a sense. From fucking California all the way to here.
Yeah, we would see, you would see a late afternoon on a city street that is sort of surrounded by flowers and bushes and tall trees, in neatly organized planters, on a sort of late autumn day, but like California late autumn, so the only real sign that it's autumn is that the trees are kind of brown instead of green. Um, and you would see a young, real kind boy, maybe about 16, going to cross the street to get to what looks like a museum when a massive black carriage, drawn by a skeletal horse, comes out of nowhere and slams into him.
Truly a worthy sacrifice. I mean, what's 4,123? Am I right?
Well, after 4,122, one more who was never going to amount to much in the first place is hardly anything to sacrifice. Truly, I am the most gracious of men. I gave him a chance to be a part of something greater than whatever he was accomplishing there.
Right, right. You allowed him to go attend your college, despite his inability to. Uh, his is used. What are used pronouns again?
Uh, he, him, and they, them.
Okay, cool, cool, cool. Despite their inability to perform magic, and instead force them to become a vessel for uh, your little black mark. I mean, truly, it is ingenious. I couldn't have thought. The fact of the matter is, it is an extremely clever way of getting rid of the problem.
Isn't it? The unfortunate fact is there is no way to contain Overblot in a non-living vessel. Trust me, I tried. Every possible way that I could think of. We tried putting it into gemstones, into glass, into every vessel that we could concoct with any level of technology, but the sheer fact was, if it was not contained within a living being, it simply escaped or dissolved itself, and there was no way to capture the greater concept of it fast enough. In order to truly capture and hold the concept of the Overblot, we would need a living vessel, one incapable of their own magic, and therefore are incapable of feeding into it and allowing it to grow to its completion. It was no easy bit of work getting the dear prefect from whatever that world was.
Oh, okay, I believe that was California. Not exactly entirely sure what the street is, but I am quite familiar with the location.
That does ring a bell. They said something about Riverside? How
I
funny.
do hear
I never saw any river when I was looking through to find someone.
I hear the hotels are lovely.
Jade, I'm gonna strangle you for that joke.
Now, before we leave for tonight, would you like to see where you is now?
Oh, why would I need to do that? I already know.
Oh, you're keeping an eye on the boy.
But of course. I must make sure that my noble flower blooms in its time, and when the time comes, that it withers away, taking that hateful black mark on my career with it.
Right. Well, are you able to see the overblot incidents that have occurred while you, in Zatori while you're keeping an eye on him?
I could if I so chose, but when you've seen 4,122, you've really seen them all.
Then what's a few more, am I right? And on the screen, you see the current overblot incidents that have occurred.
Mm-hmm. And Crowley's reaction to this is a little odd because it really is just complete apathy. He just stares at it with that same slightly bored, slightly amused smile that he's had this whole time of just, yep, that was about what he expected. And he kind of shakes his head and says, really, it's their own fault. I did tell the dear prefect to mind what he put his hands on, but I don't think he understood the message, really.
Well, hold on. Well, is there any other message you'd like to send out to the rest of the audience here?
But of course. And assuming that at some point during this interview he had to sit down, he will kind of stand up, make a sweeping gesture with his hands and say, I do so graciously thank you for your contributions to ridding the world of a true evil. I apologize deeply for any minor inconvenience we may have caused, and I assure you, the danger will be gone quite shortly.
And anybody willing to find you and obviously participate and or join your esteemed establishment, where could they find? Where could they get hold of you, sir?
Well, I'm afraid that's a bit difficult now, isn't it? Unless you all have magic mirror technology. I have no idea even how you pulled me here, but I assume you have a way to get me back. Then again, I know the difficulty of such things.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. Start jumping into mirrors. And with that, Mike Standee will walk around the desk and shake your hand before taking you down the steps and guiding you over to stage left. Just take a right and then a left and head for the exit sign. You'll find yourself where you were before. Don't be worried.
Much obliged.
And Mike Standee will enter back to the center stage and just say, thank you and good night, everybody, and welcome to Latenight Speechbubble, Season 2. Good night, everybody. And with that, I believe that's the end of it.
Yep. Thank you so much for playing with me.
Thank you so much for playing with me and for joining me for this little venture.
Indeed, this was a blast. All right, I'm stopping recording. Everybody say goodbye to the listeners. Bye-bye, listeners.
Bye. I'm also stopping recording. Bye.